Hi friends, it's Taylor. Welcome back to the channel where I share my financial journey to debt freedom. In the last video, which was the first video of this Living Alone on a Budget series, we created my budget categories and amounts, and today we're going to determine which expenses come out of which paycheck and also which bank accounts they will get paid from. Now, I have changed some of my variable spending and savings amounts since last time because I got my electric bill and it is going to be closer to twice what I budgeted because I work from home. So I had to restructure some things, but you will see the new amounts as we go through the budget. So the first thing I want to do is talk about my pay cycle because that is going to influence how we break down everything by paycheck. So I am going to draw a little diagram here, and this is going to represent the cash flow through the month. So we have the first and the last day of the month, and I get paid on the 5th and the 20th of each month, which makes things a little tricky because I do have bills that come out in the first of the month, for example, and also other days. So I had to think about what my structure would be like in terms of how I would generally assign paychecks to my expenses. So the way that I've decided to do it is the paycheck on the 20th covers all the bills from the 1st of the next month to the 5th of the next month until I get paid again. And then when I get paid on the 5th, that covers all of my expenses for the rest of the month. And I guess a better way to do this is to show like the next month here. Yeah, I'll do it this way. So let's say this is the 1st to the 5th of the next month. And once I get paid on the 20th, I just put all of that money to the side to cover all of the expenses before I get paid on the 5th of the following month. So every paycheck is kind of paying it forward. Now that we have the pay cycle determined here, we're going to come over here to the paycheck breakdown. You can see that I have listed all of my expenses as well as the due date. The only one that doesn't have a due date is therapy. That is because it is billed every 2 weeks, no matter what the date is, and that's always changing. So I decided to just put X here. And then everything else here is either variable spending or my saving, which of course I can adjust depending on how the month goes. But I at least wanted to include it here to show what my goal amounts for each category are in any given month. So we have my paychecks listed here, the first paycheck and the second, and each of these paychecks are going to be $1,523.43 each. And using the pay cycle that we just did over here, we're going to start from the top and determine which paycheck it should come out of. So since I already determined that the paycheck on the 20th is going to cover everything from the 1st to the 5th of the following month, I already know that all of these expenses here on the 1st are going to come out of the paycheck 2 column. So rent is going to be $13.92. Security deposit is $56. And I noticed my video was really shaky last time, so I'm gonna try not to shake the desk too much. And then water and sewer is $61, and internet is going to be $45.90. So what I'm gonna do now is add up all of these bills that are coming out on the 1st, because that's what we determined the 20th paycheck will do. And I need to make sure it doesn't exceed my paycheck. And if it does, we'll just have to pull from the previous paycheck in order to cover it. So we have $13.92, $56, $61, and $45.90. And that gives us a total of $1554.90. Okay, my battery almost died on my tablet, so I am back now. But we determined that the total of all of these is $1554.90, and that's higher than the $1523.43 that I'm actually going to get in that paycheck. So what this means is that I need to pull in extra money from the first paycheck in order to cover these expenses. The easiest way for me to do this is to just take out this last bill here, and now we're going to add these three again, $13.92 plus $56 plus $61. That gives us $1509. And then we're just going to add the remaining amount that takes us to $15.23.43. And that's $14.43. Yep. And then because the internet bill is $45.90, we're just gonna do $45.90 minus the $14.43, and that's $31.47. So to recap what we just did, we looked at all of the 4 expenses here that we wanted to take out of the paycheck on the 20th. We determined that it was going to be a little too much, so we decided to split the internet bill between 2 paychecks so that we would not technically go over budget with all of these expenses, and then we'll take the additional $31.47 that we need from the previous paycheck to make sure our bills are covered on the first. Hopefully that made sense, but if you still have questions, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But now that we've determined the paycheck on the 20th is going to cover all of these bills, it's safe to assume that everything else for the month will just come out of the paycheck based on our diagram here. And now I'm just going to put in the amounts. So Descript is not really a new subscription from last time. It's something that I've already been using for months now. I was going to cancel it, but now that I'm getting back into the groove of YouTube, I decided to get back on that subscription, especially since they raised their prices and they said that if I stay with them, I can continue using the lower pricing. So definitely wanted to take advantage of that. And then YouTube Premium, $13.99. The rest of these expenses are the same from last time, so I think I'm gonna skip this part. We should talk about electric because that did change now that I have an official number. This is going to be closer to $180. It said that 35% of my bill is going to the AC. So I decided to just bring down the AC 1 degree, or bring it up 1 degree, and we'll see if that affects my bill. But I think I'm gonna feel more comfortable at least having like a higher number on what I should expect. And now we're gonna get into my variable spending and saving. So groceries is going to be $3.60, and this is actually pretty liberal. I could definitely save money here if I want to, but I really just enjoy cooking. So I like trying out new recipes, and I am okay with spending more on groceries for those experiences that are important to me. And then my fun money and savings, this is kind of like where I made the changes. So I'm gonna come back up here to what we did last video and look at this little diagram here of the savings. So originally my plan was to put $200 a month into the emergency fund, $65.17 into the bills sinking fund, and then $166.66 into the nail nut fund, and $25 a month into gifts. Now, the reason that we have to reevaluate this is because my electric bill is going to be $80 more than expected, so I need to figure out how I want to restructure this. When I was looking at my financial goals, which I will briefly put on the screen, I reminded myself that my #1 financial goal right now is to be debt-free, yet my savings here is not really reflecting that. And instead, most of my money is going towards my emergency fund. So I decided I want to switch things up so that my savings amounts actually reflect the priority of my goals and they're not misaligned. So I'm going to keep gifts at $25. I'm going to reduce the emergency fund to $100 a month. And then bills, I should clarify that the reason that this is $65.17 right now is because I needed to make up for all the other months this year that I did not save up for it. But I think I can cash flow those bills when they come out. So let's reduce this from $65 to $40. And then fund money, yeah, I do want to keep that at $80 because I'm trying to get out of that survival mindset and make sure that I'm enjoying every step of my journey. So now what we're gonna do is start with $15.23.43 and subtract all of these expenses, and however much is left is what I'm going to put towards my debt, which I think will be over $200, but let's see. So that gives us $209.24. And I think that makes a lot more sense so that I can reach that #1 financial goal even faster. And now we're going to do the last part of this video, which is my bank map. And I want to start by talking about what kind of accounts that I have. So I'm actually going to copy the bank screenshot that I had from last video. I'm just going to paste it here so that I don't have to constantly go back and forth. So we're going to start by writing paycheck 1 and paycheck 2. And every time I get paid, this gets deposited into the spending account, which is here. And then from the spending account, I either put it in the bills checking account. So this is specifically for rent and utilities. And then it can stay in the spending. I'll say stay. And then I'll put it into the emergency fund. And then I have my short-term and long-term goals. Even though I have 2 different accounts for the emergency fund, for the sake of keeping this simple, I'm just going to put 1 there for now. And with this cash flow breakdown, I need to look at the expenses that we just did and determine which accounts are going to be responsible for that. I'm trying to use like different colors. Bills will be pink. If it stays in spending, we'll go with green. The emergency fund, I guess we'll go with blue. And short term, we'll go with purple. We'll go with orange for long term. So we're going to use this as reference, go through the paycheck breakdown, and we're just going to color code which bills need to come out of which account. So rent, that's definitely the bills account. Security deposit, water, sewer, internet, and then gas and electric. So all of those come out of the bills account. And then the ones that will stay in the spending account will be these, because these are fixed expenses that are charged to my debit card, and my debit card is linked to my spending account. So the blue is going to be the emergency fund, purple, short-term goals. I'm gonna put that under bills and gifts. And then the long-term one will be the one for this debt payment. Technically, I would put this in the purple, but since I'm not pursuing any other long-term goal right now, it just makes sense to put this in that account. Yep, that's it. We didn't miss any other rows, and now I know by color coding how that money is going to flow out of the spending account. Now, I think the absolute last thing that we need to do is write out how I'll transfer the money on the 5th and the 20th. At this point, I'm kind of just winging it. So we'll see if this makes sense when I'm done. So we're gonna have bills, spending, the emergency fund, short-term and long-term. And then at the top, we'll have the 5th and the 20th. So we're gonna say when I get paid on the 5th, how much do I need to transfer into bills? So all of these come out on the 20th. So after the 5th, we need to transfer 44 for gas and 180 for electric. So that's going to be 180 plus 44. That's $224 that needs to be transferred into the bills account on the 5th to cover gas and electric. Yeah, that makes sense. And then for spending, I guess I didn't even need to include this as a row, but that's fine. And then how much am I transferring into the emergency fund on the 5th? $100. And then to the short-term funds, that's going to be 40 and 25. Oh, quick math, that's 65. And then to the long-term funds, that's going to be the 209.24. And then for the 20th, we need to transfer the entire paycheck, as we already calculated here. That goes into the bills account. So that's $15.23.43. So this is all good, because that's the entire paycheck. Okay, out of curiosity, I want to see how much would be in my bank account after I transfer all of this on the 5th. So we'll do $15.23.43 minus $224 for the bills, minus 100, minus 65, minus $209.24. So I would have $925.19 left in my bank account after I transfer everything on the 5th. And then that's going to cover the rest of my spending. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this to myself and also for you all's benefit. So on the 5th, I'm going to transfer $224 into the bills account to cover gas and electric, which comes out on the 8th and the 15th. Then I'll transfer $100 into my emergency fund, $65 for the bills sinking fund, which is annual bills, and the gift sinking fund, and then $209.24 into the Nelnet sinking fund. And then for the 20th, this will actually be the easiest. I'll just transfer the entire paycheck directly into the bills account. So to recap everything we just did in the video, because I do feel like it was a little all over the place, I get paid on the 5th and the 20th of every month. The paycheck on the 5th covers all the expenses for the rest of the month, and the paycheck on the 20th covers all the expenses for the 1st to the 5th of the following month. And then we did my paycheck breakdown, where I have the date that all of the bills are coming out, the paychecks that they're coming out of, the accounts that they're coming out of, and then in addition to this little spending diagram that we have here, we determined what we will transfer into each account based on the paychecks for the 5th and the 20th. And then I'll have $925.19 left in the bank once all these transfers are made on the 5th. So I feel good about this. I think that we accomplished a lot, and my brain also needs a break because this was a lot of math. And I understand that I could have done this in Google Sheets, but sometimes it's best for me to just write things out so that I can have like little diagrams and, just brain dump without having to worry about specific formulas and things like that. So I'll put this into Google Sheets later. But that's it for today's video on my paycheck and bank mapping. And so we can check this off the list. So in the next video, we will talk about my savings plan, which is also like kind of my spending plan too, because the next couple of months are going to be a little inconsistent, and I don't think I'll be fully able to implement like all of these amounts just yet and all of these transfers. But I at least wanted to have the goals for what I want to save and transfer so that I have that kind of in the back of my mind as the month goes on. If you had any questions about what we went over today, just let me know in the comments below and I'll try to answer them either in the comments or in a following video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.